Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. Got some more 2A news here for you, and this one's going to be pretty straight to the point. It actually involves some pro-gun legislation coming out of Illinois. It's entitled H.R. 705, the Veterans Second Amendment Protection Act. Now, that's my crew, of course, and we do represent the veteran community, so I thought I would weigh in on this particular subject. Before we get started, I would like to thank our friends at SDI for supporting our content here on the channel. If you are looking for a career in the gun world, they are your go-to source. They've got some great gunsmithing programs, reloading programs. Their drone programs are amazing as well if you want to learn how to fly drones. Check them out. Great group of people, wonderful curriculum, wonderful instructors. Definitely highly recommended. And a big thanks to SDI for supporting our efforts here on the channel. Use the link below so that they know that I sent you to them. And a big thanks to them for being a long-term supporter of our channel. Sonoran Desert Institute, SDI, and tell them Eric sent you. All right, we're going to get into this real quick here. And look, the VA has handed down a lot of slapdowns to veterans in terms of their gun rights. Now, in case you guys don't know this, some of you probably know from firsthand experience because you might have received some letter saying that you've been added to the NICS system, or maybe you went to purchase a firearm and found out that you were a prohibited person. So there are some instances where the VA can deny a veteran their gun rights. And it's actually a pretty lax system that is really easy for them to abuse, right? So they get to have the hands-off capability of saying, well, it wasn't us that took the veterans' gun rights. We just simply, turn their name over to NICS, and then NICS is the one that actually, denies them on the background check or whatever if their name pops up in the system. So what H.R. 705, strives to do is to prevent that from occurring and to remove the ability of the VA and other administrative agencies to very easily add veterans, into the NICS system and by proxy denying many thousands of our veterans their gun rights. In fact, just last year alone, over 8,000 veterans were added to the NICS system and lost their gun rights as a result. Now, it's sort of this weird little loophole that they use, right? So essentially, all right, if someone is disabled, let's say in some terrible way, they've received a terrible war injury, or perhaps their mental faculties are, let's just say their judgment's a bit clouded. Maybe they need a little bit of help handling their affairs, right? Maybe cashing checks or dealing with some finances or paying some bills, right? They get money in for their disability compensation. Maybe they are still employed and have some form of a job or whatever, or some other passive income. For whatever reason, they have some income coming in and everything, but maybe they need some help managing some of their affairs, or maybe they need some help managing their benefits or their disability compensation, or any of their communications between the veteran and the VA. Maybe they need an intermediary to help them with that. What the VA is saying is if you have to assign someone to help you handle your affairs, then they deem you mentally defective or whatever. And of course, there's always the mental adjudication that can come from the court system if they deem you to be, let's just say, mentally defective in some way. And of course, the standards for that are relatively open-ended and relatively lax, and of course, opened completely up for all kinds of abuse. So H.R. 705 deems to deal with that. It's also worth noting that around 71% of veteran suicides are carried out with a firearm. Now, that is something to consider. Now, we do have veterans that commit suicide all the time, even daily, and we don't want our nation's veterans, hurting themselves or anything like that. But I wanted to bring that data point up because that's probably something that they use as a reasoning for, well, we need to take their guns. But the truth of the matter is, though, if someone has gotten to that terrible point in their life where they feel like they can't go any further, the method is really irrelevant. They're going to find a way if they're determined that much. Of course, I'm a big proponent for the idea of reaching out to our vets and giving them all the help that they need. And of course, there are plenty of organizations out there. One that comes to mind is Special Operations Wounded Warrior. They're a group of people that I support very much. Of course, the folks over at Hero Hunt. So there are a ton of great veterans organizations that take some of these veterans who have been through really difficult times in their life and take them out on fun excursions, hunts, and take them fishing and get them together with other veterans and share some camaraderie and help them deal with and unpack the trauma that they've experienced in warfare. So if you don't know about those organizations, if you are a special operations veteran who's been wounded in a serious way and you're having a hard time with life, reach out to Special Operations Wounded Warrior, right? Hero Hunt. There's tons of organizations out there that do great work for our veterans. So don't feel like you are alone in your fight, okay? Without further ado, we'll get into this here. It's pretty straightforward here. Illinois Representative Mike Bost is the sponsor of this particular bill. And I'm just going to read the summary because it's a super easy summary, and this will point you right in the right direction here. This bill prohibits the Department of Veterans Affairs from transmitting certain information to the NICS system, the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, utilized by licensed importers or dealers of firearms. Specifically, the bill prohibits the VA from transmitting personally identifying information of a veteran or beneficiary to the NICS solely on the basis that such veteran or beneficiary has an appointed fiduciary to manage their benefits unless there is an order or finding of a judicial authority that such veteran or beneficiary is a danger to themselves or others. Now, of course, if something had to go through the court system, then that's going to carry a little more weight. At least then there's, let's just say, due process, all right? One could even argue that in many cases, criminals may actually have someone who's actually committed some terrible, heinous crime might actually receive better treatment than some of our nation's veterans are being, handed in these types of situations. Imagine being a person who has struggled to even get the VA to respond to your, disability compensation claims or to get them to even listen to what, you got going on. It's a struggle to get the disability compensation, especially in the higher percentage levels as it is, much less if you actually have an issue and need to get to the VA to get seen. That is stressful. And, many of our nation's veterans have been dealt a hard hand and they've had a hard life. And many of them have had multiple deployments. And imagine going through all of that and then thinking, well, I want to go buy a gun and protect myself, which honestly, most veterans probably already gun owners anyway, right? That's what makes this so odd to me. But let's just say someone decides, well, you know what? I had a rifle in the service. I want to go buy a rifle just so I can be able to protect my family. Look, things are kind of getting crazy. The world's kind of a scary place. Maybe it's not a bad idea for me to go arm up just to, as a check in the box. Of course, our military minds and our planning, always better to be prepared and to have it than not have it. And then to go to the gun store and have the gun store say, well, sorry, but your NICS background check was denied. And then not even knowing why it was denied, having to take, so when you're denied on a background check, they'll usually give you, I believe it's like a PIN number or something like that, or like a phone number that you can call, and you can find out like what the reasoning was behind why you were denied on the sale. But the gun store doesn't know that. All they know is you've been denied the sale. So imagine thinking, well, gosh, what the heck did I do? I didn't do anything wrong. You went into a gun store to exercise your Second Amendment rights and purchase a firearm to protect your home, your community, your family, what have you, whatever purpose you deem appropriate, that's lawful, and you're denied the sale. And imagine that, how frustrating that's got to be for a veteran who's already in the system, is dealing with the compensation claims and, gosh, them losing paperwork and all the paperwork shuffle and all of the bureaucratic minutia that goes into a giant organization like the VA. Well, anyway, and then not know why you were denied. But anyway, the VA, of course, they hate this bill and they do not support this bill because, unfortunately, as much as it pains me to say this, there are many people at the VA who probably get their rocks off on the idea of being able to just flick a switch in a system and send the information over to the NICS and know that they're just, depriving one more gun owner of their rights. Unfortunately, is a politically motivated type of system that they can use to exert their will against others. And, look, the VA, just like any other government agency, is a microcosm of society. And when you have a microcosm of society, you're going to have people that are pro-gun and anti-gun and everything in between, and people on all different extremes. Of course, that's me being very, very fair. But the truth of the matter is, I would say that most of the people that work in those type of, higher level government positions are probably very much on the left side of the political persuasion, and certainly more towards the anti-gun side no matter what political persuasion they might believe in their personal life, they're probably going to swing more towards the area of being anti-gun versus pro-gun. And of course, they're going to take their belief and apply it to what they do in their job. And unfortunately, it does disarm a lot of veterans wrongfully, okay, that have no reasoning why that they should be disarmed because of this. So this is a great piece of legislation. We should support it. It does have quite a few co-sponsors. I mean, of course, we know Biden's not going to sign it, but here's the thing: it's important. It is important to make sure that people know what the will of the people is. So if a bill like this at least makes it through the House, that does sort of set forth precedents that, hey, there's a lot of people that obviously support this particular idea, and even if it fails in the Senate, it's still important that, gosh, even if we were only shy a few votes to get it passed in the Senate, it still sends a strong message that, hey, what the VA doing is terrible, and they're disenfranchising all of these veterans of their constitutionally protected rights. Now, I know this is a sensitive subject because it deals in, essentially suicide, right? When we're talking about veteran suicides and everything, but these are very real conversations that we have to have, and this is a video that I wanted to make because not only is this 2A related, but it's also related to my veterans. And I know many of us have been through a lot of bad stuff, and many of us feel like Uncle Sam's turned his back on us. And believe me, I understand. I get it. I do. I understand where you're coming from. I know the pain that's in your heart, the betrayal that some of you feel, especially when you go to the gun store to buy a gun and you've been denied your what are supposed to be your constitutionally protected rights. Just by some person you've never even met that decided, well, I'm going to flick a switch and now your Second Amendment rights are now forfeit. I know the betrayal that you feel, but we have to do our best to use the mechanisms at our disposal to make these things go away. And look, getting laws passed through Congress is one of our many ways that we can deal with these situations. Now, let's hope that H.R. 705 grabs some legs and goes somewhere. And a great job there on Mike Bosa's part there in Illinois. Thank you so much. That is so thoughtful of you to put forth a bill like this and to sponsor this bill. And there are quite a few co-sponsors on the bill. So, look, it's worth a phone call. Call your reps. Let them know that you support H.R. 705 to protect the gun rights of our military veterans who have given so much for our country and so much for each other, right? And they've given so much for the idea of freedom, right? And of all people should have every single right to own a gun that could be afforded to them. And it's just a tragedy that many of these folks have been disenfranchised of their constitutionally protected rights. And we have to end that as soon as possible. I mean, our veterans, yeah, many are in a hard spot. Many have been hurt and wounded. Many of them, yeah, have some mental issues. But just because someone has to have a caretaker to handle a few things, or as it says in the original wording, a fiduciary, I guess that would be like a person that sort of almost has like a power of attorney, can do, make financial decisions or write checks for you. Just because someone needs a little help, does that mean that their entire, ability to protect themselves should be completely forfeit? I mean, I think any logical person you ask that question to is going to say, absolutely not. That doesn't make your life forfeit. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't have the ability to protect yourself. Does the Second Amendment stop at the point that you're just having a rough, patch in the road? No, it doesn't. So anyway, I wanted to share this. And look, again, if some of you are still going through a rough time, maybe it's PTSD, or maybe you just need someone to talk to, always reach out to people like Hero Hunt, Special Operations Wounded Warrior. There's tons of organizations out there that are there for you. Please find someone to talk to. We need you. Do not give up. It is going to be okay. I promise life will get better. Find someone to talk to. There's plenty of resources out there. There's people that care about you. There's people that want to see you succeed and go forth in life and conquer your life in front of you. Many of you have many years left. Please don't do anything bad. And I really hate to see those type of statistics. So, again, it's been a problem, a long-going problem with veterans and that. But we have to make sure that we're giving everybody the help they need and the support they need. And for God's sakes, making sure that folks have access to self-protection in the form of, obviously being a gun owner with the Second Amendment. So thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. and definitely call your reps and support HR 705. I think it's a great piece of legislation. It sends a good, strong message to the Hill that we want our nation's veterans to be protected. Thank you so much for watching. Many more videos on the way. We'll see you soon.